is up, y'all? It's your girl Young SLB, and today we're back at it again with another video. And today the topic of discussion is locks versus curls. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I'm well versed in both having locks and loose curly hair. So today I'm going to be talking about the things I wish I would have known before I went ahead and locked up my hair, and also, you know, the differences between maintenance, cleanliness, shrinkage, length, all that good stuff. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and let's hop right in. First thing I want to talk to you guys about in the locks versus curls debate is the beginning. So there are different ways that you can begin either your curly hair journey or your lock journey. As far as your lock journey, there are different ways you can go about starting your locks, whether that be the 2-strand twist method, the coils method like I did, or even lock extensions, which I think is cheating, but this is a judgment-free zone. And after picking your method, you're also going to have to figure out what size locks you want, what type of parting system you want, whether it's squares, freeform, or triangle parts like I did. All of that is really important because that will determine what your hair is going to look like throughout the course of your lock journey. When it comes to starting your curly hair journey, you can either transition, do a big chop, or you're already well versed in having natural hair. So as far as the beginning with your lock journey and also with your curly hair journey, you're gonna go through a weird phase with the length. More so for your curly hair journey if you're doing a big chop or if you're transitioning, but most definitely if you're doing locks, you're always gonna go through a transition phase. And nobody really told me that it was gonna be like that. And granted, I didn't do much research before I locked my hair. It was kind of an in the moment decision and I just went with it. So do your research and be ready to experience that weird phase where your hair doesn't really look like you want it to, but you have to get past that phase for it to get to where you want it to be. So in summary, as far as the beginning of your either curly hair or lock journey, it's gonna involve a lot of trial and error as far as figuring out how you want to style it on a day-to-day basis because of the weird transitioning phase. When it comes to starting your lock journey, it is going to be more permanent when it comes to deciding how you're going to start your locks and also your parting system and how large you want your locks to be. So if you want to start your lock journey, make sure you do your research, figure out what size you want your locks to be, how you want them to be parted, and what method you want to use to start them. Transitioning into my second topic of discussion, let's talk shrinkage. This is a huge factor about locking up your hair that nobody told me about. Like, I had no clue it was going to hit me like this, but the shrinkage is really real. And if you have natural hair, you already know that the shrinkage is OD, especially with curly and coily hair. But with locks, bro, my hair was the shortest it had ever been in my life when I was in that transitioning phase. Getting locks, I would say months 6 to a year. Honestly, any month after like month 4 or 5, you're gonna start to see some major shrinkage. It's depressing, not gonna lie to you. It's just part of that transition phase where you have to kind of just suck it up, and your locks are most likely not gonna look like what you want them to look like, but it's inevitable and it's part of the process of locking your hair. So if you're interested in starting a lock journey, please be aware that you're gonna go through a shrinkage phase and your hair is probably gonna be shorter than it was when you first started out your locks. And of course, if you have curly hair or are transitioning to be a natural, you already know that shrinkage is gonna be forever. But the benefit with locks and shrinkage is that your shrinkage isn't gonna last forever and eventually you'll be able to retain more length. So moving on to the third topic of discussion, let's talk maintenance. So if you have natural hair, you already know that it takes a lot of maintenance and a routine and a regimen in order to keep your hair healthy. I'm talking weekly wash days, protective styling, non-manipulation styles, all of that, deep conditioning, hot oil treatments. It's a lot of work that goes into having natural hair. And when you decide to go on a lock journey, you're still gonna have to do things to make sure your hair is staying healthy. So as far as lock maintenance, the main thing that you're gonna have to do on a regular basis is retwist and wash your scalp. Now, granted, it's a lot different than having curly hair because you only have to get a retwist every couple months, and you maybe even go longer than that, depending, of course, if you're free-forming or whatever method you're using to start your locks. And it also depends on how your scalp feels. I personally, when I had locks, I only went and got a retwist and my scalp got super itchy and it looked gross, and you could see the buildup on my scalp. That's when I decided, okay, it was time to get a retwist. But that's really the main thing when it comes to maintenance with locks. You do want to make sure that your locks are being moisturized on a regular basis, or else your hair can start to thin and break off, which is not good. But if you're starting a lock journey, it's going to be inevitable at some point in your lock journey. That's just what it is. It happens less often if you maintain your hair and have a solid regimen. In combination with retwisting, you're also going to have to get in the habit of palm rolling, depending on the size of your lock. Palm rolling is the process of taking a lock in your hair and moving your palms back and forth to even out the hair distribution in the lock. This is really important because you don't want the top of your lock to be super thick, and as you go down the lock, it gets thinner. And that's when breakage and things like that start to happen. So palm rolling is something you're gonna have to integrate into your maintenance routine when it comes to locks. In summary, lock maintenance is a lot easier. I feel like it's a lot less to do like on a scheduled basis, but you will have to be mindful of palm rolling, keeping your locks moisturized, getting retwist, washing your scalp, conditioning properly, and all of those good things. But again, it's not going to be as often or as strict as having loose natural hair. Segueing into a new topic of discussion, let's talk retaining length. As I said, with starting your lock journey, you're going to experience some type of shrinkage. That is basically inevitable, no matter how thick your locks are, what method you use to start. Unless you cheated and you did lock extensions, all of this basically doesn't apply to you because your hair is basically fake, but we'll talk about that in another video. Anyways, after the shrinkage phase with your locks, it's going to be a lot easier for you to retain length, especially if you're maintaining your locks properly and you're making sure that they're not thinning out, which in turn helps you retain more length. Now, for loose curly hair, we know that the shrinkage is OD all the time, forever, so it takes a little bit longer to actually see physical length. So to summarize the retaining length part, if you're keeping your locks moisturized and have a healthy routine for them, just like you do with your natural hair, you're going to see length being retained. And I would definitely say that you're going to see length quicker in locks than you would in natural hair. And that is just because of the shrinkage factor. Once that's over, you're going to see hella length, and that's just what it is. So moving on to the next topic of discussion, let's talk versatility. The reason a lot of people don't even start their lock journey is because they're worried about what versatility they're going to have. And honestly, it's not that much. When you have loose curly hair, you can easily switch up your styles. You can do wigs, you can do twists, you can do braids, you can do whatever. And it's honestly a little bit easier to color your hair with loose natural hair versus locks, because once you color your hair with locks, I feel like it personally does more damage to your locks, and it's harder to keep them moisturized because, let's think logically, it's a bunch of hair knotted and matted together. So it's hard to moisturize the inside of the lock, which has also been affected by the dye or the bleach or whatever you're using. So it's easier for your locks to get fried and look crazy and not be healthy. And also when it comes to locks, you can get styles. I used to go for a 2-strand twist style when I got my retwist, so then it looked like I had a twist out after a couple days of having the style in. But you can also do different updos and things like that. I got a lot of inspiration off of Pinterest, but I'm tender-headed, so I didn't do a lot of styles, but it is possible to do different styles, have a little bit of versatility. But the issue with doing styles back-to-back on locks is that it can cause damage if you're doing it too often or having styles that are too tight. That can cause lock thinning or your scalp being irritated. All in all, I think this is the first round that loose curly hair wins the versatility round. So if you are committing to a lock journey, you have to accept the fact that you're not going to have too much versatility, and dyeing your hair is going to be a major decision, and you have to be smart about the way you're doing it. You're going to have to give your hair breaks. It's all going to have to be strategic when it comes to having locks and incorporating versatility. Being a loose natural is the way you want to go if you cannot give up versatility and switching up your style on a regular basis. Moving on to my last topic of discussion, and this was a major reason for me ending up combing out my locks, and it's about cleanliness. Obviously, when your hair is literally in knots and is matted together, it's going to be more difficult to clean your hair, and you're not going to get as deep of a clean as you would when your hair is loosely natural and it's easier to get to the scalp and reach every strand of hair. But what people didn't tell me and what I didn't realize about having locks is that stuff gets stuck in there and it gets gross. So if you're a clean freak and you can't handle having your hair be dirty or seeing lint in your hair in the bottom of your lock, locks aren't for you. It's not going to work for you. Now, granted, you can do different types of lock detoxes and lock cleansing that will help release some of the buildup from your scalp and also get rid of some of the lint and dirt that's trapped inside of your physical lock. But it's impossible to get to all of it, especially the lint that has been there from the beginning and that is in the core of your lock. It's impossible to get it out until you comb your hair out or you cut your hair off, and that's just what it is. It was really a major breaking point for me because I was tired of looking at my hair and seeing lint that I couldn't get out, and it was just gross to me, and I wanted to feel a deep clean again. Now, was it worth 3-4 days of combing out my hair for it? Maybe. But we'll talk about that in another video. But like I said, if you're a clean freak and you can't handle seeing dirt in your hair, locks are not going to be for you. Now, obviously, when you have loose natural hair, it's a lot easier to clean. And let me tell y'all, the first time I shampooed after combing out my locks, it was so good. It felt so phenomenal to feel the hot water on my scalp. All of the scalp. It was amazing. I cannot even put it into words how good that first shampoo felt. So all in all, let's summarize what we've learned today. As far as the beginning, you're gonna go through a weird transition phase, whether you have curly hair or you have locks. Locks are gonna require you to do a little bit more research because the way you start your locks is gonna determine how your locks look in the long run, especially if you plan on keeping them for a long amount of time. As far as shrinkage, locks beat curls because curly hair shrinkage is going to be forever. That never goes away. But once you get over your shrinkage phase in locks, you're going to retain length like that and it'll be fine. But you will go through a weird shrinkage phase for a couple months minimum. And that's for any type of way you start your lock, regardless. Lock maintenance is definitely a lot easier and less strict than having loose curly hair maintenance. But you still do have to put in some work. It's not you lock your hair up and you get up and go every single day of the year. You're going to have to dedicate time and part of your days to make sure that your locks are being taken care of properly. As far as retaining length, once you get over that shrinkage phase, your locks are going to grow and it's going to be a lot easier for you to retain length, especially if you're doing a good job at your maintenance routine and making sure your hair is healthy. As far as versatility, if you can't live without switching up your hair every 2 or 3 weeks, locks are not going to be for you. It's just not viable. It's not a good option because in the long run, if you're switching up your hair with your locks on a regular basis, it's going to cause damage. And you have to be able to just chill out and let it rock for a couple months at a time. Last but not least, cleanliness. If you can't handle seeing dirt and stuff trapped inside of your hair and you can't just be a free spirit and let it rock, locks aren't for you, and that's okay. So guys, I hope this video brought you some insight, taught you something new, opened your eyes a little bit, whether it encouraged you or discouraged you from starting any type of journey. I want you to know I was keeping it 100 this whole video. So if you made it all the way, I appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends, all of that. You know the vibes. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. We out. Bye.